I can find the slope of a line using the slope formula, so without graphing it. Now I am going to graph a couple of them just because I've already corrected the first period's worksheets, and I was already surprised by, I shouldn't have been, but then when they found the slope, and the graph was there, the picture of it was there, and the line was falling from left to right, what kind of a slope should it have? A negative slope, but yet their slope turned out positive. Isn't that a problem?
Yes.
So we want to start always making the connection. If you have the graph and you find the slope, the behavior better match the type of slope that you got. Okay? If you want to absolutely make sure you have the correct slope, then you can always graph it and see if you actually end up with a good behavior for the line and the correct slope. So let's review. The slope of a line can be determined using how many points? Any 2 points. All you need are 2 points. Why can we use any 2 points on that line? What's true about the rate of change?
Constant.
It is a constant rate of change. No matter which 2 you would choose, which interval you would use, you would get the same slope all the time. It's a constant rate of change. So how do we find slope again? Change in y over change in x. Or stating the slope formula that I just questioned you about. We'll put those y's upstairs. Now, when you see it in math books, they do flip it around to being y sub 2 minus y sub 1. By the way, you can do y sub 1 minus y sub 2. That does not matter. This is just how it is typically written. If you start with the point that you're going to call the second point upstairs, you start with the point that the second point downstairs also with your x's. So again, it could flip and be y sub 1 minus y sub 2 over x sub 1 minus x sub 2. Just like counting on a graph, doesn't matter which point we start at to determine rise and run. If you got 2 points, does it matter which one you start at? No. You can start at the top point and count down and over, or you can start at the bottom point and count up and over. Okay, so finding the slope of a line that contains these 2 points. 5, negative 7 is the first order pair. The other order pair is 6, negative 4. I'm saying let's let 5, negative 7 be our x sub 1, y sub 1. In other words, it's one of our points. And the other one, 6, negative 4, is going to be our second point, x sub 2, y sub 2. So if we put it into the formula just the way the formula reads, how would we substitute in? What would we put? M equals negative 4
minus
subtract
negative 7.
negative 7. That subtraction sign does not take the place of the negative sign on the 7. Change in those 2 y values. What do we have to start with downstairs? We have a choice now. 6. And we subtract 5. We're not going to use calculators. We're going to say, if I have something like negative 4 take away negative 7, I can change that to negative 4 plus what? No. The opposite of. This changes to addition, and now we say negative 7 was being subtracted, so I'm going to add its opposite. What's the opposite of negative 7? 7. And downstairs, we don't really need to change that one because 6 take away 5 is pretty basic. So what is negative 4 plus 7? 3 or negative 3? I've heard both. 3, okay. And we have that 1 downstairs. Now, slope, and just, hear me on this, unless it's rate of change, and we know, in other words, a rate of change that we know the labels for, we know what the y's are representing. We know what the x's are representing. If that's the case, then we divide it out and we give it maybe a decimal name or an improper fraction or a mixed number name or an integer name. But if we don't know, like in this situation, we have no idea what the x's and y's are representing, we do not change it to a mixed number or a decimal number. Integer, what's an integer again? What kind of number? A whole number or an and the whole numbers, which are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and
It's opposites.
their opposites. Not the whole number line, the whole numbers and their opposites, like -1, -2, -3. So if we can simplify it to a integer, we simplify it to that, or a simplified proper fraction, or a simplified improper fraction. No mixed numbers, no decimals. Okay, 3/1 is, which is an integer, right? So we're going to say m equals 3. Now, before, you're not going to have to graph today, but you tell me, let's write down, what would the behavior of that line be? Oh, wait a minute, there isn't such thing as a positive line. What does positive slope tell us the line is going to do? It's going to go up from,
Left to
okay, it's going to rise from left to right. Rise from left to right. So on a graph, we would expect this to happen. Now, you don't have any graphs, but oh, that's right, I have it on the third page. But I do, and so I am going to graph these, and you're going to help me. What's the order? What's one of the ordered pairs for this situation?
6.
What is it?
0, 0.
0, 0? I don't remember working with 0, 0. The one we just found the slope for.
5, -7.
5, -7. Thanks, you guys are great helpers. And what's the other one? 6, -4. Please know that I was being sarcastic. Okay, and if I connected these 2 points with a line, drew a line through them, because the domain is what? All real numbers. What's the range? All real numbers. So if I draw a line going through those points, would it rise from left to right? Okay. Tell me then, how is this like, how is using the slope formula like counting? What are we really doing? How do they really mirror each other? You're still finding rise over run, change in y over change in x. So if I start at this bottom point and I go 1, 2, 3 up and 1 to the right, I still have 3/1, which is 3. Well, could it just as well have been, what if we had flipped the order of those 2 points? We said, we're going to let the second point be x sub 1, y sub 1, and the first point be x sub 2, y sub 2. How would our using the slope formula look then? What would that have looked like? So, ordered pairs, what was it again? I keep forgetting. 5, -7, and 6, -4. What if we had flipped the order and said, instead of this being x sub 2, this one's going to be? And that one was going to be our x sub 1, y sub 1. What would the subtraction problem look like now? Using the formula the way it's stated. What would it have looked like? -7, take away the -4, over 5, take away 6. Okay, let's change this to add the opposite. Plus a +4, plus a -6. What's -7 plus 4? -3. What's 5 plus -6? -1. Do we have a different slope? Negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 3 divided by 1 is 3. So did we do something illegal or wrong or can't do? So in other words, does it matter which point plays the role of x sub 1, y sub 1, and which one plays the role of x sub 2, y sub 2? No, because on the graph, this would have been starting at this point and going down 3 instead, and left 1. We're still doing rise over run, aren't we? Okay, go to your sheet and do the next one. And when you're done, determine the behavior of the line also, please. I did it both ways, as if I started at one point and went up to the other one, or as if I started at one point and went down to the other one. Doesn't matter. Carter?
I got the reverse of that somehow. I had 0 for -9.
Okay, what do you do wrong, class?
So the X,
Dylan?
you put it on X over Y.
You put the x's, the change in x's over the change in y. Does that matter? That matters. Y's have to be upstairs, x's have to be downstairs. Okay? So you either ended up with -9 over 0 or a +9 over 0. Do you match one of mine? You only have to match one of mine. What's the slope then? Nicole, do you have a question? Okay, what's the slope? 0? Undefined. It's not 0. You can't divide by 0. No. This is undefined slope. Undefined. We cannot divide by 0. Well, if it's undefined slope, what's the behavior of this line? Is it vertical? Tessa says it's vertical. Does anybody agree with it? I got some agreeers, okay. Anybody have a different idea? Why do we know it's vertical, Tessa?
Because your x's aren't going, they're just staying.
Oh, yeah, they both have an x value of what? -2? So -2 and 7, wasn't that one of the points? And the other point was -2, -2? Are those aligned vertically? They are, aren't they? And we should be able to see that if we start at the top point and we go down 7, 8, 9. So if we're going down, it's -9. And do we have to go over? No, so there's a 0 downstairs. If we go up, instead, now we have a +9, and do we go over? No, so it is over 0, and we can't divide by 0, so it is undefined. Vertical lines have undefined slope. Okay, so questions about that? Okay, let's go to the back side then. And we have, what do they do, a table of ordered pairs, and you don't want to have to graph them to figure out the slope. Can you just pick any 2 points you want?
Yeah,
Yes. Because what?
Because
It's a constant rate.
It's a constant rate of change, so it does not matter which 2 points you choose, okay? So I'm going to make the choices for you. This row, you're going to use the first 2 points in the table, okay? This row, you're going to use the first 2. This row right here is going to use the second and the third, so the middle 2 in the table. And you guys are going to use the last 2 in the table, okay, the third and the fourth one. So find the slope of the line that that graph would make. I'm going to go graph the line, and you're going to tell me what its slope is. And then if anyone is done, would you just be so bold as to do it again and do the first and the last points together, you know? Let's just have a whole bunch of choices here. Okay, so from the first row, what'd you get for slope? Whether using those first 2 points that I've circled.
3 over.
Carson, what'd you get?
3 over -2.
3 over -2. Are we gonna change that to a mixed number? No, are we gonna change it to a decimal? No, not when we don't know what they're representing. Here's what we are gonna do though. We would take this and we would remember what I said, if you have one negative in a fraction, what can you do with it?
What else do they talk
Bring it
about? Bring it to the.
bring it out and make this a -3 halves. Don't leave it in the fraction, bring it out and call it a -3 halves instead of 3 over -2. Okay? Anybody in his row want to disagree with him? Challenge that? Okay, the row 2, you guys use those 2 points. What did you get for slope? Who wants to offer up what they got for slope for using those 2 points? Connor?
3 -2.
3 -2. Order pair 3 -2 or?
No, the slope is 3 -2. What?
I don't know what that means, 3 -2.
3.
Casey,
So it's 3 over 2.
you got
3 over 2.
3 over 2, okay? That makes more sense to me. Now I know I need to write a fraction at least. Dylan,
I got the slope is -3 over 2.
and you got -3 over 2. So -3 halves. So we got a positive 3 halves, we have a -3 halves. Anything else in this row that anybody wants to throw out there? Okay, how about this row over here? Who wants to offer up what you got when you use the last 2 points? So these guys, M equals. Maura,
I got M equals -3 over 2.
okay, so M equals -3 halves. Okay, anybody else in that row want to challenge that? Anybody have something else? You want to? No? Okay. Well, tell me something. I have a graph. Did I graph it correctly, first of all? Does it look like I graphed it correctly looking at the table? No? Or which one's wrong?
The last one.
The last one. Okay, where should it be? Right here? I can see right now where it should be. Right here? Is this where it should be? Okay. No? Yeah? Somebody help me decide. Okay, this is where it should be? Okay. So that's the only one I have wrong going, or my line didn't want to go through very well. Okay, well, tell me something about the behavior of this line. Carter?
That one's down a little too far.
Yeah, it's down.
Now it's down too far. Oh, make up your mind, Mr. LeGrand. Put it where it's supposed to be. What is the order pair name? 1, 2, 3. What's its name?
4 -6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's supposed to be here. Well, now I definitely need to shift my line a little bit, don't I? Do I have the right spot now? Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Okay. Now, tell me something about the behavior of the line. It doesn't have negative behavior. It has negative slope because the behavior is it is falling from left to right. So we have to get rid of which one? We have to get rid of, oh, not that one. We gotta get rid of this one because it's positive, right? We can't have that one. So again, this is when you would say, if you have a graph to compare your slope to, you would say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. I can't have a positive slope because this line is falling from left to right. Okay, anybody do the first and the fourth pair? Did you do Tessa? No? Anybody go crazy and, you did, Barb? 9
Which
over,
implies down to
9 over negative 6.
negative 9 over 3 over 10.
Or negative 9 over positive 6,
Yeah.
okay? Does
Or
that,
no. I got negative 9 over 6. But like, negative 9 and 9, 6. There we go.
and we wouldn't leave it like that because that's not how you'll see it in an answer bank. You would simplify it to negative 3 as 9 is divisible by 3, 6 is divisible by 3. We would simplify it to that. Okay, so I know that you're like, she's making a really huge deal of this, but every single year when I think this should be a cakewalk to just do some subtracting and dividing, and it never turns out that way. So are you sure you don't have any questions? Okay, in the next one you get to decide which one you're going to do, okay? I'll let you pick. Do you want to do the first pair that I picked, or do you want to do the second pair? You choose. You want it or the other, it says, or. So find the slope of the line containing those points. You get to choose, are you going to use ordered pair 410 and 623 because you like whole numbers? Or are you going to challenge yourself and use 3, 3.5, 410? I've kind of written all 4 possibilities of what might happen, you know, and depending on who you are, what you chose to do, there's 4 different possibilities of what the result should have been before you start thinking about simplifying. How do you decide which one's going to be the first one, the first y value you're going to choose? How do you decide that? Doesn't matter, first of all, again, what do we decide? It does not matter. Have you come up with a way yet and you're like, you know what, why not make it this one because then I will get to deal with whatever. Dylan?
I take the first, I would do the x value of the first set of ordered pairs, the first ordered pair.
So you let the first ordered pair be your first one in the, okay? Anybody else have a strategy they started using yet? What did I do? I did the second one, right? Anybody think they know why I might, what my thought process might have been? Think you know, Nicole? It's a bigger number. So I'm gonna end up with positives instead of negatives. Why not? Why not make my life easier, right? Because it doesn't matter. So, anybody have something different than one of the 4 choices I came up with? Okay, what do you think the answer will look like in the answer bank? Let's say this is an odd number problem that you're doing in the homework, and you're going to the back of the book, and the answer you got isn't there possibly. What would be the answer that will be there in the answer bank? Carson?
6.5.
6.5? 6.5, the 6 5/10?
Yup.
If we knew what the labels were, probably would be. If it was representing like dollars per pound, you know that it's that time of year you buy bulk chocolate, $6.50 per pound. If we knew what it was, but we don't know what it's representing. So what did I say we're going to do then? Guess that. 35 over 5. And where'd you get that? What'd you do?
6.6.5 is the next number, and then I was supposed to be next numbers.
Okay, so 6.5 can be written as 6.5, you're saying. Okay, and how do we get 35 out of 5 out of that?
Well, I put 5, like 6 and 5.
Oh, okay, so 6 and 5 fifths or tenths? Ooh, that would have been wrong. It's 5 tenths.
So 60.
65 tenths, but then can 65 tenths be simplified? Yes, okay. Well, nobody's given me the answer that would be in the answer bank yet.
So 6.
Not just 6, no. Person?
13
The 13 over 2. The 13 over 2 is the way they're gonna do this one right there. 6 and 6, when it turns out like this, we're not gonna leave it like that. We're never gonna leave it with 2 negatives in. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, so we're not gonna leave it with 2 negatives in. And 6.5 is the same as 6.5, and 6.5 is the same as 2 times 6 is, no, 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13. This is 13 halves. This is 13 halves. So 13 halves is most likely how that answer would be in the back of the book. Okay? Some of you are looking a little like not convinced. Let's go to page 256 in your books. Maybe you'll talk to me another day. I don't know. This is where I find students give me the least amount of effort, do the least amount of thinking. It's kind of like, oh, whatever. No, it's not going to work. So tell me what's going on in this problem. Check it out, problem 3. Person?
The plant growth in centimeters, original phase,
Okay, the plant growth in centimeters. Which axis did they put that on, by the way?
1.
The y-axis, okay, and the x-axis is time in measured in days, okay. So that sounds to me like if we're gonna find the slope is gonna be, what's its label then? This is like a rate of change one where we know what the x's and y's are. What would its label be? Centimeters per day. Centimeters per day is what, when we find our slope this time, it really is representing a rate of change that we know what its label could be, okay? So now, are they asking us to find the slope? Yeah. Okay, go ahead, find the slope of that line then. Find the slope of that line. Okay, anybody want to throw out an answer yet? That's what you get. 1/2. Okay. Anybody else get 1/2? Okay. What else do we have up for that? Anybody use the counting method on the graph?
Is it?
Hmm?
What's,
Can you use the counting method on a graph?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. You can count how many you rise over how many you run on a graph. Anybody do that?
yeah.
What is it?
5 over 2.
5 over 2. 5 over 2, the same as 1 over 2. Okay, that's 2 different answers. Is this got a constant rate of change? This rate, doesn't it have a constant rate of change? Okay, it's a line, but really made into a ray because we can't have negative days or negative centimeters, right? Well, we got a problem here, 5/2 and 1/2, and if anybody else wants to throw in another one, just add to the problem. Well, which one's right then? Anybody use the slope formula? Okay, what do you get when you use the slope formula? You got a negative, okay. Connor, did you too?
No.
Okay, could you tell me how you use the slope formula? What'd you do, Kat?
I did y2 minus,
Okay, but what did you put sub in?
20 minus 10,
20 minus 10? Okay, over,
30 minus 50.
okay, class tell her what she just did wrong.
Minus 50.
Oh yeah, when you're looking at your form, this right here, the vertical, it better match up with that, the horizontal. So does it? No, she started with the y value from the top point, and then she started with the x value downstairs from the bottom point. We cannot do that. We have to make sure that we keep the order. Okay, so what am I gonna do? Okay, well, whatever. Okay, so we need to change these guys around, don't we? So 20 take away 10 is 10. And 50, we can't really subtract backwards, but instead of rewriting it, I'm just reversing it. 50 take away 30 is 20. Well, that seems to be 1/2, doesn't it? Well then, how come when we're counting, it's 5/2? Amber?
Because on the graph, it's not going up by 1, it's going by 4.
It's going up by 4s on the y-axis, okay? What's it going up? What's it going on the x-axis?
10.
10s. Oh. So that means 5. So if you go up 5, you're really going up 20. If you go over 2, you're really going over 10 at a time. So I'm not sure I'm convinced that the y-axis is going by 4s. It isn't. What is it going by? It's going by 2s. It's going by 2s. It's labeled every 4, but it's going actually by 2s. So because the scale is different, that makes this 10/20. Oh, same thing as we got in the slope formula. So I am so glad that somebody did use the counting method and got that, because that's what very easily happens with slope, is we do not pay attention to the x-axis and the y-axis, how they are being numbered, what their scales are. So it is 1/2. And we decided that the y's are what again? Centimeters, weren't they?
Yeah.
And the x's are days, so put those labels in there. It's 1 centimeter over 2 days. Or in other words, when it says, what does the slope in this situation tell us? This is not what it tells us. Every time it goes up 1, it goes over 2. That's not what it's looking for. So how do we say that kind of? Every 2 days it grows 1 centimeter. There we go. Let's write that. Sentence, when they ask these, you're going to write a sentence. Every 2 days, the plant grows 2 centimeters. 1 centimeter, thank you. 1 centimeter. 1 centimeter. So again, when they ask you to say, what does the slope in this situation tell us? It's not, yes, it is. For every 1 unit it is going up, it is going over 2. But that is not what it's asking. It's asking, it's specific to this situation, what is actually happening.